Hello, my name is Dr. Janelle Ott. I teach double reads at Angelo State University and Bassoon at Abilene Christian and McMurray in Abilene. This is a video I'm making primarily for my college students, so they have a refresher if they ever get confused about how to shape bassoon cane. Anybody else who just needs a refresher on shaping or wants to see how I do it, welcome. Okay, so we're going to start with equipment. So for shaping, there isn't really a lot that you need, but there are a few things. So we start with a shaper. I like flat shapers because I find that your results are going to be much more uniform with a flat shaper. There's also a kind of shaper that is called a fold-over shaper. So if you imagine the fold-over shaper as a pen, the idea is that you're going to take a piece of cane, fold it over the shape, find a way to bind the cane to the shaper, and cut off the sides at the same time. The problem with the fold-over shaper is that no matter how hard you try, when you're clamping the cane onto the fold-over shaper, it's just never going to quite be straight. There's just always going to be a little bit of inequity, and you avoid that with the flat shaper. So this is my shaper. It's the Bell shaper. You can get it through RDG Winds. I like the Bell shaper because it's got this little extra flare right at the back, and it's a little bit of a narrower shape, and that's what I like to use. But what I'm going to show you applies to just about any shaper that you can get out there. You also need an X-Acto knife with lots and lots of X-Acto blades. I have found that you really don't want to use the same X-Acto blade for more than like 7 pieces of cane. Sometimes you'll get lucky and you'll find a blade that will last you longer than that, but once the blade starts to dull, you lose control of the knife and then you start ruining cane. And that's a reed that could have been a good reed, but you ruined it, so now it will never be a reed. So lots of extra X-Acto blades. You can get them in bulk on Amazon. And also, I have a soda bottle that I use to store my blades that are spent. So why would I do this? Well, because if you just throw the razor blades away, first of all, there's a chance that you could cut yourself on the razor blades. Second of all, they could slice up the bag, like the garbage bag they're in, and then that creates a whole mess. Third of all, the janitors and garbage men who have to take out that trash could really seriously hurt themselves if there are just free-flowing like razor blades in the bag. So just use a soda bottle, use any kind of plastic container that makes you happy. This probably isn't even my soda bottle because I don't drink this kind of soda, but like I'm gonna keep using it for probably the next 10 years before it gets full. So any kind of sharps container will work just fine. Other things, you need a Sharpie and you need cane. So this is gouged only cane that I gouged yesterday, and then I started to soak it. You want it to have been soaking for between 12 and 24 hours. If you soak your cane before you gouge it, that first soak of the cane should be 12 to 24 hours. The second soak of the cane can be closer to 8 to 12 hours. I personally will dry gouge my cane. So this is my first soak, 12 to 24 hours, and expect the water to be kind of scummy. By the time that soak is over, go ahead and just like refresh the water. Dump out the water, put in new water. If you can't shape right away, that'll stop the water from smelling really bad and it'll stop your cane from ruining. Okay, so shaping, here we go. So you notice we've got 2 wheels. These 2 wheels are what controls if the sides of the gouger are together or not. So I am going to unscrew these at the same time, about the same amount, and you can see the sides coming apart. Now the bed is curved, so you want to make sure that when you insert the cane, you're inserting the cane so the curve is facing the same way. If you put it in this way, first of all, I'm impressed you got it in at all. And second of all, once you start clamping it down, you're gonna break the cane very quickly. So I've I've got a nice opening here, and I'm going to just insert the cane like so. Now the bell shaper actually has, if you can see right there, it's got a little pin. So you will always line up the cane exactly right if you gouge it, if you cut it properly when you're gouging. Okay. What you want is you want to line up the cane so that there's about the same amount sticking out of either side of the reed all the way down. You also want a little bit of allowance at the center so that you will have to cut a little bit of cane off all the way around. So you just adjust with your fingers until you get it as close as you can, and then you tighten, again, moving both wheels at the same time until you can't really get it to close anymore. Don't force it, but you definitely don't want the cane sliding around once you're shaping it. That'll ruin it pretty fast. Okay, now, knife technique. Few rules of thumb. So I hold my razor blade like so. So I'm mostly just holding it here, and then I push with my thumb. I don't have my thumb on the razor blade, not even on the back. That's a really good way to put a whole bunch of holes in your thumb. I've done it. Also, it's very important when you're doing this that your other hand is in no way, no part of your hand is in the path of the razor blade. Again, it's really easy to cut yourself without even noticing when you're doing this step. Okay, next step. You want to brace the shaper against something. I've seen some people brace against their sternum. It's a little close to my head. It makes me nervous. So I tend to brace on my stomach, like about here. Brace wherever you want. Just start doing it always in the same time. I've also seen some people brace against a tabletop like so. That's great if that's what you're used to doing, but it's not what I'm used to doing, so I'm not going to do that. Okay. Other things before we do the actual shaping. So on a flat shaper, there is something called a point of no return. The point of no return is just when the angle changes from going in to going out. So on this particular piece of cane with this particular shaper, that's where I see the point of no return. See, the angle goes in till about there, then it starts to go out. When you are shaping, you do not want to keep going the same direction over the point of no return. Never go over the point of no return. You cut in one direction towards the point of no return, then you cut backwards again towards the point of no return, but you should never go exactly over it, because if you do, it's like pulling a hangnail. Your knife is going to start cutting cane that is inside the shaper, and that's the opposite of what we want. I found with the bell shaper, you need to be really careful about this back part. I really like the flare, but it's also very easy to cut it off. So, last thing for you to think about, and that is exactly what we're trying to do with the knife when we are shaping. So there are two kinds of cuts that you are going to be making while you're shaping. Keep in mind that the less cane you're trying to take off at once, the less pressure you need to put on your knife and the more control you're going to have. So I don't want to take off all of this cane in my first pass. I want to take several passes. It's always okay to take a few more passes. Don't overdo it. The first cut I make is just going to take off some of this extra here. I'm not trying to even get it close to the shape. I'm just trying to take a little bit of cane off. So what I do for that, let me get closer here, is I'm going to go in, and then I'm just going to flatten out the blade. So I'm not going down towards the reed at all. If I feel like I still have a good amount left, I'll do it again. Again, flatten out the blade. So this is really more of a slice than anything else. Okay. Once I get it about that close, Now I start trying to get a lot closer to the form. So at this point, your knife is going to change. First of all, you want the knife ideally to be equally touching all sides of the form. You don't want it flipped like that. You don't want it angled like that, just straight up and down. Second of all, the angle at which the knife is hitting the form, you want it to be about a 30 degree. There's a 90 degree. We don't want that. That's not really going to work. We want about a 30 degree. And while you do this, you're going to be pushing down. Pushing down against the form will give you more control. So, go down, stop at the point of no return. See it? Don't go past it. And then go backwards. Now, when I go backwards, I'll often not go all the way to the point of no return. I'll just go a little bit back. Notice that my entire left hand is below the form. None of it is sticking out above the form. So I can't possibly cut myself. Again, going down. If you start to feel resistance, you stop. And then you go back again. And there you go. Now, just make sure I got everything off. Now, if you make a mistake, if the mistake is around or below the point of no return, you can make up for that. That'll probably be fine. You'll just use a little extra Duco. You'll tighten the wires a little bit more when you form the tube. Anything that's above the point of no return gets a little tricky because that is going to be something that affects the blade of the reed. I'm not saying throw it away, but you're just going to possibly be having a leak that lasts as long as you play that reed. So let me do the other side. So you can see the point of no return is right there. And slice off a little bit more. Okay. I'll often do the back scrape first because I'm trying to protect this flare. Okay. Then we do the other side. So again, slice first. And I'll go back and then forward. Back, forward. Now you'll notice that I'm not marking the point of no return on all sides of my blade. That is because of the years and years I have spent shaping cane and the probably thousands of pieces of cane I've shaped in that time. You eventually will develop a sense for it. There's nothing wrong with marking it. You could even take like a silver Sharpie and mark where it is on the shaper itself. Now, once I've finished, which I have, it's okay if there's a little bit sticking out right here. That's fine. That's going to get cut off anyway. We, again, unscrew equally. And we're going to take one of the slivers that we took off of the cane or the reed while we were shaping it and just use it to push the cane through like that. Oh gee, there is one thing I forgot to do. So the other thing I like to do, it's okay if you don't, but it's a nice thing to do, is I will take a Sharpie and mark exactly where the center of the cane is. That will help me set up the reed a little bit more carefully when I'm profiling it. So pretend that I just did that. Take it out and you leave it to dry. So normally I'd say let it dry overnight before you do the next step. Before you profile, I like to do at least an 8-hour soak. 3 hours minimum. Use warm water if it's 3 hours or less. So that's the next step. And that's where we'll pick up in the next video. Shaped cane.